The rain pounded relentlessly against my windshield. My hands quaked on the steering wheel, knuckles turning white from my tight grip. Before me, illuminated by the stark fluorescent lights of the underground parking garage, my entire existence was crumbling. 23 years. That was the span of my love for him. 23 years of trust shattered in an instant. Watching him press her against that sleek silver BMW, his hands entwined in her flowing blonde hair, his wedding ring glinting in the light as he drew her closer, I felt a part of me die. Yet simultaneously, something new began to stir within. Something dark, something that had lain dormant for years, waiting for this precise moment to awaken. My phone was already recording, the red dot pulsing steadily in the corner of the screen, capturing every stolen moment of their illicit passion. They remained blissfully unaware of my presence, concealed in the shadows, merely 3 rows away, oblivious that their secret was no longer a secret. My finger lingered over the horn. One press, and their little fantasy would shatter. One sound, and the game would commence. I smiled. A smile that didn't reach my eyes. A smile that would have sent chills down my spine had I seen it reflected back at me in a mirror. Because I wasn't merely going to honk that horn. I was poised to dismantle them both, methodically, and they would never see it coming. The horn erupted through the garage like a piercing scream. But I truly believed it. Each morning, I would awaken beside James, watching the sunlight dance across his face, thinking to myself, I'm the luckiest woman alive. We resided in a charming colonial house in Westfield, complete with a white picket fence. Our 2 children were in college, our careers thriving, and we hosted dinner parties with friends who envied our seemingly perfect relationship. James would still surprise me with flowers every Friday, just as he had during our courtship. He'd slip little notes into my lunch bag when I headed off to the hospital, messages that read, "Love you more today than yesterday," or "Can't wait to grow old with you." I kept those notes, every single one, tucked away in a box in my closet. Sometimes I wondered if he had been writing them out of guilt even then. Was he already involved with her while crafting love letters to me? The day everything shifted began like any other. It was a Thursday in March, and I had finished my shift at the hospital early. As the head nurse in the cardiac unit, those 12-hour shifts left me both exhausted and fulfilled. James was a senior partner at his accounting firm, Preston & Associates, where he had dedicated 15 years, climbing the corporate ladder with a determination I had always admired. I decided to surprise him. His car had been in the shop all week, forcing him to rely on Ubers to commute. I thought I would pick him up, perhaps take him to that Italian restaurant we had visited on our first date. 23 years later, and I still yearned to surprise my husband with romantic gestures. How naive I was. The drive to his office was delightful, the windows down, allowing the refreshing spring air to flow through the car. The radio played our wedding song, At Last by Etta James, and I took it as a sign, the universe confirming that yes, we were meant to be. But the universe has a twisted sense of humor. I pulled into the parking garage at 6:47 p.m. Most people had already left for the day, but James often worked late. It was one of the qualities I adored about him, his unwavering dedication and strong work ethic. I knew he would still be there, likely hunched over spreadsheets, his glasses slipping down his nose as he focused intently. The garage was dimly lit, shadows stretching ominously between the concrete pillars. My heels clicked against the floor as I made my way toward the elevator. That's when I heard it. A laugh. Her laugh. High and tinkling like wind chimes. I recognized that laugh. His secretary, a 28-year-old fresh out of business school with legs that seemed to go on for miles. She had been working for James for 2 years. I had met her at company Christmas parties, smiled at her jokes, and complimented her dresses. She had gushed about how fortunate I was to have James, how he spoke of me constantly. "He's crazy about you," she had said last Christmas, her manicured nails lightly touching my arm. "You're all he talks about." The laugh rang out again, followed by a deeper sound, James's voice, but different. Hushed, intimate, reminiscent of how he used to speak to me when we were alone. I crept forward, my heart already knowing what my mind was fighting to accept. They were 3 rows over, standing by Rebecca's BMW, the silver one, adorned with the vanity plate that read Becca 1. James had his back to me, but I could see his hands, one pressed against the car, the other on her waist, pulling her close. "We can't keep doing this here," Rebecca whispered, though a smile played on her lips. Her red lipstick was smudged, a telltale sign. Someone write C. "Let them," James replied, his voice thick with desire. "You don't mean that," she retorted, tracing a finger down his chest. "What about—" "Don't," he interrupted her sharply. "Don't mention her. Her. I was her. The inconvenient wife, the obstacle in their little affair. He kissed her, and it wasn't just a fleeting peck or a mistake. It was a deep, passionate kiss that twisted my stomach into knots. His hands tangled in her hair, pulling her closer, as her leg wrapped around his, her skirt riding up dangerously high. I felt paralyzed, unable to breathe, unable to think. But somehow my hand moved of its own accord, pulling out my phone. The camera app opened silently, and I hit record. They continued to kiss, completely unaware of my presence. James's wedding ring, the very one I had placed on his finger while shedding tears of joy, glinted under the harsh fluorescent lights as he ran his fingers through her hair. Those same hands that had held me last night, that had caressed me this morning before he left for work. "I love you," he whispered against her lips. 3 words. 3 words he had uttered to me thousands of times, now rendered meaningless. Something inside me snapped, not broke, but snapped, like a rubber band stretched too far, like a bone fracturing cleanly. Yet instead of pain, I found the horn, and the sound erupted through the garage like a gunshot. They jumped apart as if electrocuted. James spun around, his face a whirlwind of emotions, confusion, recognition, horror. His mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Meanwhile, Rebecca tried to flee. Her heels clicked frantically against the stairwell, her blonde hair streaming behind her. But she would soon realize that I had captured everything on video. Running wouldn't save her. James approached my car, his hands raised as if I were a wild animal. "Honey, wait, this isn't—" I started the engine, cutting him off. "Please." He was at my window now, tapping on the glass. "Let me explain." I looked at him, really looked at him. This was the man I had loved for more than 2 decades. His face was flushed, his tie askew. Rebecca's lipstick stained his collar like blood. His eyes, those green eyes I had fallen in love with, were wide with panic. I rolled down the window halfway. "Get in," I said, my voice unnaturally calm. It seemed to frighten him more than if I had screamed. "Miranda, He walked around to the passenger side like a condemned man heading to his execution. The door opened slowly, and he sat down, unable to meet my gaze. I drove in silence, the only sound his rapid, shallow breathing. The scent of Rebecca's perfume permeated the car, something floral and youthful, a stark contrast to the mature fragrance I wore. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. "How long?" I asked as we merged onto the highway. "Miranda, how long?" He flinched. 6 months. 6 months. 6 months of lies, of late nights at work, of client dinners, of making love to me while thinking of her. "Do you love her?" Silence. "Answer me." "I don't know." I laughed, a harsh and ugly sound. "You just told her you did. I have it on video." His face went pale. "You were recording every second." We drove the rest of the way home in silence, but my mind was racing, planning, calculating. He thought this was the worst of it. He believed we would argue, perhaps even divorce, splitting our assets down the middle. Little did he know what was truly coming. I possessed knowledge about James, secrets that his precious Rebecca remained blissfully unaware of, secrets that could shatter more than just our marriage. That night, James took refuge in the guest room. I could hear him on the phone, whispering urgently, likely to Rebecca, plotting their next move. Let them plan. They had no clue who they were dealing with. I couldn't sleep. Instead, I made my way to his home office. James was always meticulous about his work, keeping everything organized: client files, tax documents, financial records. He had trusted me completely, granting me all his passwords years ago. In case something happens to me, he had said, I want you to have access to everything. Well, something had indeed happened to him. He had transformed into someone I barely recognized. I began with his email, starting with personal messages before moving on to work-related ones. The personal emails were just as I expected. Hundreds of messages exchanged with Rebecca. Can't stop thinking about last night. You looked beautiful today. My wife is working late to come over. I was reduced to just a title, my wife. Not Miranda, the woman who had held his hand through his father's death. Not Miranda, who had supported his decision to leave a stable job for Preston and Associates. Just my wife. But it was the work emails that made me freeze. James had been stealing for years. The evidence lay before me, hidden in plain sight. Fake invoices, shell companies, client accounts with mysterious transfers. He had been siphoning money from the firm's biggest clients, funneling it into offshore accounts. We were talking millions. I leaned back in his leather chair, stunned. This wasn't merely infidelity. This was fraud, federal crime, prison time. How had I not known? How had I lived with this man, shared my bed, loved him deeply, and failed to see what he truly was? A memory suddenly surfaced. 3 years ago, James had insisted we needed to update our insurance policies, specifically life insurance. He had taken out a substantial policy on me, $3 million. I had laughed, insisting it was far too much. I want to make sure you're taken care of, he had said, planting a gentle kiss on my forehead. But now, with everything I was uncovering, that memory took on a sinister hue. I dug deeper, finding a folder labeled Personal hidden within another folder titled Tax Documents 2019. Inside were more emails. These were different. They were exchanges between James and someone named Vincent Russo. Vincent Russo. That name rang a bell. Everyone in town knew it. He ran the largest construction company in the state, but whispers surrounded his other ventures, the kind that operated in shadows, the kind that broke legs when debts went unpaid. James owed him money, a lot of money, gambling debts, from a habit I had been completely unaware of. The emails grew increasingly menacing. Payment due. You're out of time. We know where you live, where your wife works. The last email, dated 2 weeks ago, chilled me to the bone. Found a solution to your problem. Life insurance pays out well for accidents. My blood turned to ice. James wasn't just cheating or stealing, he was plotting to kill me. I printed everything, every email, every document, every piece of evidence. The printer hummed softly in the darkness, churning out page after page of my husband's crimes. His betrayal ran deeper than I had ever imagined. But I wasn't afraid. I was furious. He wanted to kill me for insurance money to settle his debts and escape with Rebecca. They had meticulously plotted it all out, likely sharing laughs about the foolish wife who never suspected a thing. Well, that foolish wife had just transformed into their worst nightmare. I didn't confront James about what I had discovered, not yet. Instead, I donned the mask of the perfect wife. I prepared his favorite breakfast, eggs Benedict with extra hollandaise, and kissed him goodbye as he left for work. I told him we would discuss the situation when he returned home. I need time to process, I said softly, brushing my fingers against his cheek. 23 years is a lot to throw away. Relief washed over his face. He thought I was weak, that I would forgive him. "Take all the time you need," he replied. "I'll end it with Rebecca, I promise." Liar. As soon as he was out the door, I sprang into action. First, I opened a new bank account at a different bank across town. Then, I began transferring money, not all at once, as that would raise suspicion, but enough to make a difference. I moved half of our savings in small increments. He would never notice. He was too preoccupied with his web of lies. Next, I called my lawyer. Well, not yet my lawyer, but she would be. Patricia Hawkins, the best divorce attorney in the state, renowned for dismantling unfaithful husbands in court. "I need to see you today," I insisted, "and I need to know about whistleblower protections." Her voice sharpened with interest. "Whistleblower? My husband has been embezzling from his firm. I have proof." "Come in immediately," she urged. The meeting lasted 3 hours. I laid everything bare. The affair videos, the embezzlement documents, the emails with Vincent Russo. When I finished, she leaned back, a slow smile creeping across her face. "Your husband is finished." But we need to be smart about this. If he's truly planning something, we need to ensure our safety. She made calls, contacting the FBI regarding the embezzlement and the local police about the threat to my life. By the end of the day, James was under surveillance, though he remained blissfully unaware. But I wasn't finished, not by a long shot. That evening, I decided to pay a visit to Rebecca. She lived in a trendy downtown apartment, complete with exposed brick and modern furnishings, the kind of place young professionals believe makes them appear sophisticated. I knocked on her door at 8 p.m. She answered, clad in yoga pants and a tank top, her face mask only half applied. Upon seeing me, the color drained from her face. "Mrs. Mitchell, may I come in?" I asked. She stepped aside, trembling. Good, she should be scared. I settled onto her pristine white couch, surveying her perfectly curated life. There were photos of her with friends, laughing over brunch, a vision board adorned with goals written in elegant cursive, and pictures of exotic vacations she likely couldn't afford on a secretary's salary. "How much has he given you?" "What money?" "How much money has James given you?" She fidgeted nervously with her hands. "I don't know what you—" "The Cartier bracelet you wore last week, the weekend trips to Miami, this apartment that costs 3 times what you make. How much?" Her shoulders sagged. 50,000, maybe more. Stolen money? Did you know that? Her eyes widened. "No, he said what?" "That it was bonuses, investments. He's been stealing from his clients, Rebecca. Every gift he gave you, every dinner, every hotel room, paid for with stolen money. That makes you an accomplice." She began to cry, ugly, gasping sobs that smeared her face mask. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." I studied her, just 28 years old. Her entire life lay ahead of her, yet she was a victim in this twisted game. James had played us both. "I have a proposition," I said, breaking the heavy silence. She looked up at me, mascara streaking down her cheeks. "You're going to help me. You're going to do exactly what I say. In return, I won't include you in the FBI report. You'll walk away clean." "What do you want me to do?" I smiled, a cold satisfaction washing over me. "You're going to keep seeing him. Act normal. Let him believe his plan is working." "What plan?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the emails with Vincent Russo, observing her expression shift from confusion to sheer horror. Oh my God, he's going to kill me for the insurance money?" She dashed to the bathroom and vomited. I waited patiently, allowing her the moment to collect herself. When she returned, pale and trembling, I continued. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to wear a wire. You're going to get him to confess everything. The affair, the stealing, the plan with Vincent, everything." "He'll never do that." "He will. Men tell their mistresses everything. Make him feel safe. Make him think you're on his side. Tell him you're worried about the plan. Get him talking." She nodded, terror etched on her face, yet she understood she had no choice. "And Rebecca, if you warn him, if you try to run, I'll destroy you. You'll go to prison as his accomplice. Every dream on that vision board will turn to ash. Understood?" Understood. The next 3 weeks were the hardest of my life. I had to pretend everything was normal while knowing my husband was plotting my murder. Every meal he cooked made me wonder if it was poisoned. Every time he suggested a drive, I questioned whether he'd orchestrated an accident. But the FBI was watching. Patricia had orchestrated protection without James ever suspecting a thing. Unmarked cars trailed me to work while agents posed as patients at the hospital. I was never truly alone, never genuinely in danger. Meanwhile, Rebecca played her role flawlessly. She met with James twice a week, always wired, always recording. The conversations she captured were incriminating. "The insurance money will set us up for life," James confided one night, blissfully unaware that FBI agents were listening from a van parked outside. $3 million. We can disappear, start fresh in Costa Rica. "But what about Miranda?" Rebecca asked, her voice quivering slightly. "Vincent will handle it. Make it look like a mugging gone wrong. She works late at the hospital and walks to her car alone. It'll be tragic, but not suspicious." "When?" "Next Friday. She has the night shift. Next Friday. 1 week away." They'd set the date for my death as casually as if they were making a dinner reservation. But James had no idea that Vincent Russo had already been apprehended. The FBI had taken him into custody 2 days prior on unrelated charges. He flipped immediately when informed about James's plan. Vincent, it turned out, had no desire to commit murder. He was a criminal, but not a killer. He agreed to fully cooperate in exchange for reduced charges. The trap was set. Now we just had to spring it. That week, I filed for divorce, ensuring James was served at his office in front of everyone. I wanted the entire firm to know about his affair with Rebecca. But that was merely the opening move. On Thursday, the day before my scheduled murder, the FBI raided Preston and Associates. I wasn't there when they arrested James, but Rebecca was. She called me, crying and hyperventilating. "They came in with guns drawn," she gasped, "threw him on the ground." Chaos erupted all around. Everyone was screaming as they confiscated all the computers and files. "Good," I said simply, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. "Miranda, you did what you had to do. We're done now. Leave town, Rebecca. Start over somewhere else. And if you ever come back, if you ever contact James again, I'll release the recordings of you laughing about his stupid wife." She hung up, and I never heard from her again. That night, James called me from jail. I almost didn't answer, but my curiosity got the better of me. "Miranda," his voice was broken, filled with desperation. "Please, you have to help me." "Help you? You were going to have me killed?" "No, that was never my intention. I would never do that. I have the emails, the recordings, everything." Silence fell between us. Then it was Vincent's idea. He threatened me, said if I didn't pay, he'd hurt you anyway. Still lying. Even now, caught red-handed, he continued to deceive. "Goodbye, James." "Wait, the house, the accounts, you can't." I hung up, feeling a mix of triumph and finality. The truth was, I had already taken everything I could legally claim, half the house's value and half of our joint accounts. But I had also done something else, something the FBI didn't know about. Remember those offshore accounts James had set up for his stolen money? Well, I had found those too. Using his passwords, I transferred every penny into anonymous accounts I had established. Then I donated it all. Every stolen cent went to charity, women's shelters, children's hospitals, legal aid societies. $3 million of stolen money returned to the community he had robbed. James would never know where it went. He'd spend years in prison believing his fortune was out there somewhere, waiting. That thought brought me more satisfaction than I cared to admit. The trial became a sensation. Local accountant planned wife's murder while having an affair, made headlines across the state. James's photo, the handsome, successful businessman, was plastered across every news site alongside the word guilty. I took the stand and testified for 5 hours, guiding the jury through the intricate tapestry of our 23-year marriage, from the discovery of the affair to the embezzlement and the chilling murder plot. I didn't cry. I wanted to embody strength, to show them that I was not a victim, but a survivor. Rebecca testified as part of her deal with the prosecutors. Dressed in a conservative suit, she looked young and terrified. Her testimony proved devastating for James. She had managed to get him to confess everything on tape, revealing how he had meticulously planned this for years. He had initiated the affair specifically to create an alibi for when I died. Miranda was worth more dead than alive, Rebecca told the court, her voice barely above a whisper. She explained how the insurance money would solve all his problems. James's attorney attempted to portray Rebecca as the mastermind, insisting she had seduced him and coerced him into the plan. Yet the evidence was overwhelming. The incriminating emails predated Rebecca's involvement, and the embezzlement had been ongoing for 5 years. James had dug his own grave long before she entered the picture. Vincent Russo testified via video link from federal prison. Serving 3 years on racketeering charges, he had secured a deal for cooperating. He recounted James's gambling debts and the desperation in his voice when proposing the insurance scheme. I told him I don't do that kind of work, Vincent stated, but he kept pushing, offering double if I made it happen. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty on all counts: embezzlement, conspiracy to commit murder, wire fraud, and money laundering. The judge sentenced James to 25 years in federal prison. As they led him away in handcuffs, James glanced at me one last time. His eyes were hollow, filled with defeat. He mouthed something. Perhaps, "I'm sorry," or maybe, "I love you." I would never know for sure. I turned away before he could finish. 6 months after the trial, I began the process of rebuilding my life. I sold the house, filled with too many memories, and purchased a smaller place near the ocean. I had taken a leave from the hospital, but planned to return soon, eager to help people and save lives. That still held meaning for me. While sorting through old boxes, deciding what to keep and what to burn, I stumbled upon something that stopped me in my tracks. It was a letter hidden inside a book that James had given me for our 20th anniversary. The envelope was sealed, my name inscribed in his handwriting, but it was dated 3 years ago, long before the affair, before everything unraveled. With trembling hands, I opened it. My dearest Miranda, if you're reading this, then you've probably discovered everything. You know me. You're thorough, methodical. You make a great detective. By now, you know about the money, the gambling, about all of it. What you don't know is why. Your father came to me 4 years ago. He was dying, though you didn't know it yet. The cancer he'd hidden from everyone. He knew about my gambling problem. I don't know how, but he made me a deal. He'd pay off my debts if I did something for him. He wanted me to kill you. You're reading that again, aren't you? Not believing it, but it's true. Your father, the man who walked you down the aisle, who cried at our wedding, wanted you dead. You were never supposed to inherit anything. It was all supposed to go to your brother, Michael. But your father couldn't simply write you out of the will. Your mother's will prevented that. The only way for Michael to inherit everything was if you died before your father did. I told him no. I insisted he was insane. That's when he revealed the photos. Me with Vincent's associates, me at the underground casinos. He threatened to show you those images to destroy our marriage. Yet I still said no. I could never hurt you, Miranda, never. So I devised another plan. I began stealing from the firm, attempting to pay off Vincent myself. I thought that if I could rid myself of the debts, your father would lose his leverage over me. But the hole only grew deeper. Then your father's health deteriorated. He became desperate, insisting that if I didn't follow through, he'd hire someone else who would. He claimed you'd die either way, but at least if I did it, I'd be wealthy. I started documenting everything. Every conversation with your father, every threat. It's all in a safety deposit box at First National Bank, Box 472. The key is taped underneath my desk drawer. I had planned to tell you everything, but then your father passed away suddenly last year. They said it was a heart attack. Yet Vincent had mentioned something about handling a problem for me. I never asked him to, but I think he might have saved your life by taking your father's. I know this doesn't excuse what I've done. The affair with Rebecca was real. My weakness, my cowardice, those were all real. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know the truth. Your father was the real monster. I was simply too weak to stop him. I'm sorry for everything, James. I read the letter 3 times before the reality truly sank in. My father, my own father, had wanted me dead. With trembling hands, I drove to the bank, locating the safety deposit box. The key was precisely where James had said it would be. Inside, I found recordings, dozens of them, my father's voice ringing clear as day. She was always too much like her mother, soft, weak. Michael deserves the inheritance. I don't care how you do it. Make it look like an accident. If you don't handle this, I'll find someone who will. There were documents as well, wire transfers from my father to Vincent Russo, plans for my death that predated James's involvement by years. I sat in that cold bank vault and cried for the father I thought I had, for the marriage that had been doomed from the start, for James, who was rotting in prison, partly for crimes he had committed in an attempt to protect me. But I didn't cry for long, because my brother Michael was still out there. If my father had involved him in this sinister plan, Michael was living in Boston, running the family's investment firm. He had inherited everything when our father died, the business, the properties, the fortune. I had received a small trust fund from my mother's side, nothing compared to what Michael had. I had never questioned it. Michael was the eldest, the son. It made sense in the twisted logic of our traditional family. But now I wondered, had Michael known about our father's plan? I hired a private investigator, someone Patricia had recommended. Within a week, he had answers. Michael had known everything. More than that, he had been pushing our father to act. The investigator uncovered emails and financial records revealing that Michael was in deep trouble. Bad investments, a cocaine habit, and connections to deaths that made Vincent Russo seem like a Boy Scout. He needed the inheritance, all of it, and I was standing in his way. The investigator discovered something else as well. Michael had taken out a life insurance policy on me worth $1 million shortly after our father's death. He was still plotting to have me killed, but this time I was prepared. I invited Michael to lunch, telling him I was struggling after everything with James and needed family support. He came immediately, exuding fake concern and brotherly affection. We met at an upscale restaurant downtown. Michael looked sharp in an expensive suit, a Rolex gleaming on his wrist, the picture of success. Yet I could see the cracks beneath the surface, the tremor in his hands, the way his eyes darted around nervously, the constant checking of his phone. "Miranda," he said, kissing my cheek, "you look well considering everything." "Prison suits James," I replied flatly. "Orange is his color." Michael laughed nervously. "I still can't believe it. All those years, and none of us knew what he was capable of." "Yes," I said, studying him closely. "It's amazing what people can hide." We ordered and made small talk, but I waited until the main course arrived before I struck. "I found Dad's recordings," I said casually, cutting into my steak. Michael froze, his fork halfway to his mouth. "What recordings?" The ones where he discusses having me killed, the ones where you encourage him. The color drained from his face. I don't know what you... I pulled out my phone and hit play. Our father's voice filled the space between us. Michael's right, she's a liability. The sooner she's gone, the better. Then Michael's voice, youthful but unmistakable. Just make it happen, Dad. Whatever it takes, I declared as I stopped the recording. Around us, other diners continued their meals, blissfully unaware of the drama unfolding at our table. That's not, you don't understand the context, I interrupted. I understand perfectly. You wanted me dead for money, just like James, just like Dad. The men in my life seem to have a recurring theme. Miranda, please. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to sign over half of everything to me. The business, the properties, the offshore accounts you think I don't know about. Half of everything. Or these recordings go to the police. You can't prove. I can prove you knew about and encouraged a murder plot. That's conspiracy. That's prison time. How long do you think you'd last in prison, Michael? With your habits? With the people you owe money to? He was sweating now, loosening his tie. This is extortion. No, this is justice. The justice Dad never wanted me to have. I pulled out a folder and placed it on the table. Sign these papers, transfer everything by the end of the week, then disappear. Leave the country. I don't care where you go, but if I ever see you again, if you ever come near me again, the recordings go public. Michael's hands shook as he signed the papers. When he finished, he looked at me with pure hatred. You are just like him, he spat. Just like Dad, calculating. No, I replied, standing to leave. Dad was a coward who hired others to do his dirty work. I handle my own business. I left him there with the check. It was the last time I ever saw my brother. The money from Michael came through as promised, and suddenly I was wealthy beyond anything I had ever imagined. But money wasn't what I truly wanted. It had never been about money. It was about truth, about justice, about surviving when everyone wanted me dead. I used the funds to establish a foundation, the Miranda Foundation for Betrayed Women. We provided legal services, safe houses, and financial support for women whose husbands had turned violent, whether through physical abuse or financial manipulation. Within a year, we had helped over 300 women escape perilous situations. Some were like me, wives who had unearthed their husbands' dark secrets. Others were young women, like Rebecca, ensnared by dangerous men who promised them the world. Surprisingly, Rebecca reached out to me a year after the trial. She was living in Portland, working as a waitress and attending therapy. In her long letter, she apologized and explained how James had pursued her, how he had made her feel special and important. I know it doesn't excuse what I did, she wrote, but I was lonely and foolish, and he was so convincing. He said, you two were already separated. That divorce was imminent. By the time I learned the truth, I was in too deep. I responded, telling her about the foundation and offering her a job, helping other women who'd been manipulated by powerful men. She accepted and proved to be brilliant at it. She could spot the lies, the manipulation, and the love bombing that preceded abuse. She saved lives. In a strange way, James had brought us together. Together, we were undoing the damage caused by men like him. 5 years passed, and the foundation flourished. I found peace by the ocean and learned to trust again. Slowly, carefully, I even began dating a widower named Thomas who volunteered at the foundation. He was gentle, honest, and had never told a lie in his life. Then, out of the blue, I received a call from the federal prison. James wanted to see me. He was dying, liver cancer, advanced stage, 3 months to live, maybe less. I didn't want to go. Thomas advised against it, while Patricia insisted I would regret not going. In the end, curiosity triumphed. The same curiosity that had driven me to check his emails, uncovering the truth behind everything. The prison was exactly as bleak as I had imagined. Gray walls, gray floors, and the pervasive smell of disinfectant mixed with despair. James was in the medical wing, handcuffed to a bed despite being too weak to stand. He looked nothing like the man I had married. Thin, yellowed, and hollow. His eyes were sunken, and his hair was gone. The cancer had consumed him from the inside out, just as his lies had devoured our marriage. "Miranda," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "You came." "I don't know why," I replied, honestly. "I do. You're good. You've always been too good for me." I sat in the uncomfortable plastic chair, studying this stranger who had once been my everything. "I found your letter," I said, referring to the one about my father. His eyes widened slightly. "I wondered if you would. Was it true?" "Every word," I confirmed. He coughed, specks of blood hitting his lips. "I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough to tell you when it mattered. You could have gone to the police. With what proof? Your father was careful, and I was already dirty. Who would have believed me?" He had a point. Still, there were other ways, legal ways. But James had always taken shortcuts. "I know about the foundation," he said suddenly. "Rebecca wrote to me, told me what you're doing." That surprised me. Rebecca had never mentioned being in contact with him. "She says you've saved hundreds of women, that you're a hero." "I'm not a hero. I'm a survivor." "Same thing sometimes," he replied. He shifted slightly, his voice low as he said, "I need to tell you something about Vincent." "What about him?" I asked. "He didn't kill your father." I leaned forward, stunned. "What?" "Your father did have a heart attack, natural causes. Vincent lied about handling it because he thought it would give him leverage over me, but it was just coincidence, maybe karma, but not murder." I sat back, processing this revelation. My father had died of natural causes, right when he had been plotting my own demise. The universe seemed to have a twisted sense of humor. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want to do one thing right before I die. I want to tell you the complete truth. No more lies, no more secrets." We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of his words hanging between us. Then he spoke again. "I did love you, in my broken, selfish way. It wasn't enough, and it wasn't the kind of love you deserved, but it was real. Love doesn't plan murder, James." "No, it doesn't." He closed his eyes, as if bracing himself for what came next. "Will you forgive me?" I thought about it, really thought about it. Forgiveness wasn't for him. He'd be dead soon anyway. It was for me, a way to let go of the anger that had consumed me for years. "I forgive you for being weak," I finally said. "I forgive you for being scared. I even forgive you for the affair. But I can't forgive you for choosing money over my life. That's a line you can't come back from." He nodded, tears sliding down his gaunt cheeks. "I understand." I stood to leave, but turned back one last time. "James, was any of it real? Our marriage before everything went wrong?" He opened his eyes, and for a fleeting moment, I saw the man I had fallen in love with all those years ago. "The first 10 years," he said softly. "Before the gambling, before the debts, those were real." Those were the best years of my life. I left without saying goodbye, and he died 2 weeks later. I didn't attend the funeral. 10 years have passed since that fateful day in the parking garage. 10 years since my world shattered and reformed into something far stronger. The foundation has expanded nationally, helping over 5,000 women escape perilous situations. We've lobbied for stronger laws to protect spouses from financial abuse. Rebecca now runs our West Coast operations, and she's brilliant at it. Last year, she married a social worker, a good man who knows her history and loves her deeply. As for me, I married Thomas 3 years ago. It was a small ceremony by the ocean, attended by close friends and the women from the foundation. No family. I don't have any remaining. Michael died in Thailand 2 years ago, overdosed in a hotel room. When I heard the news, I didn't feel sadness, just emptiness. Sometimes I think about James, not with love or hate, but with a kind of distant pity. He had everything, a loving wife, a successful career, a beautiful life, and he threw it all away for greed and lust. He died alone in prison, his legacy reduced to nothing but shame. But mostly, I think about the women who come to the foundation, broken, betrayed, yet not beaten. I see myself in every one of them, and I recognize the strength they don't yet know they possess. Just last week, a woman walked in with a black eye and a familiar story. Her husband was having an affair, stealing from his company, and had taken out a life insurance policy on her. She'd discovered it by accident, just as I had. "I don't know what to do," she sobbed. "I loved him so much." I held her hand, looked her in the eyes, and said, "You survive. You fight, and then you help others do the same." She's currently staying in one of our safe houses. Her husband was arrested yesterday, and she'll testify against him just as I did. She will rebuild, just like I did, because that's what we do. We take the worst moment of our lives, the moment we realize that the person we trusted most wants us dead, and we transform it into power. They wanted us dead, but we're more alive than ever. I still have the video from that night in the parking garage. Sometimes I watch it, not out of pain, but as a reminder. A reminder of when my old life ended and my real life began. The horn echoes in that parking garage, sharp and clear. It wasn't just announcing their betrayal, it was heralding my rebirth. They thought they were predators, and I was prey. They were wrong. I was the phoenix, and they were merely the fire I needed to rise. People often ask me if I regret any of it, if I wish I had never found out, had lived in blissful ignorance until James and my father succeeded in their plan. The answer is no. Yes, the truth nearly destroyed me. Yes, I lost my marriage, my family, my innocence regarding human nature. But I gained something far more valuable, myself. For 23 years, I was James's wife. Before that, I was my father's daughter. I defined myself by the men in my life, never questioning their love, their motives, their truths. Now, I'm just Miranda, survivor, fighter, founder, friend, and wife to a man who truly loves me. I'm a savior to women who need saving. The parking garage lights still haunt my dreams sometimes. The sound of that horn, the sight of them jumping apart, the taste of betrayal lingering in my mouth. But now, it's not a nightmare, it's a reminder. A reminder that the worst moment of your life can become the beginning of your best life. A reminder that sometimes, to rise, you first have to burn. A reminder that when someone reveals their true self, believe them the first time. James showed me who he was that night in the parking garage, a liar, a would-be killer. But more importantly, that night revealed who I was, unbreakable. And that's the ultimate revenge. Not the money I lost, not the prison sentence he served, not even the foundation that helps women escape men like him. The ultimate revenge is that I survived. I thrived. I transformed their betrayal into my triumph. They wanted me dead.